All right, everybody, welcome everybody to the September meeting of the Clinton County Council. We've had an early start today with the budget hearings that began at 8 o'clock, and anyone who needs help falling asleep can feel free to join online and continue watching, and we'll be doing it all day. So, but for now, let's do our regular meeting, beginning with the approval of the August meeting minutes. Jeff, I think you shared with me that you'd had a chance to look at those.
Yeah, I did, and there was one little correction that I made a mistake on, but Janet took care of me, and so I would make a motion that we'd approve the minutes.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
I think I had Joe with the second. I saw you, Mike, but I heard Joe, so I'm going to say Jeff with the motion and Joe with the second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Mary, yours was up, correct?
I'm sorry. Oh,
Minutes, yeah, 7-0.
listening to Joe's phone over here. We had,
We had technical difficulties. Who was it?
Jeff with the motion, Joe with the second to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you.
Okay, Community Corrections Report. Brett Barton.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning, our numbers are at 73 participants. We have 3 on CTP, 1 juvenile, and 1 on pretrial release. Since the last meeting, I had a board meeting, and at that meeting, my board decided to raise our program participant fees from $13 to $16. It's the first raise we've had in about 11 years. The reason for doing so, we're going to eliminate the clients from having to pay out of pocket for drug screens. Whatever vendor we have in the near future for drug screens, they're just going to bill us directly. So it's just going to eliminate that awkward step for them sometimes, not having the funds to screen and so forth. Recently, we also partnered with a company out of Tippecanoe called Kala. They are going to do our drug and alcohol and mental health assessments. Nancy has some funds to cover the cost for the remaining of this year, then I'll cover all the costs for next year. We're going to be in the county probably about 5 times each quarter, so we're very happy to be able to get those completed in a timely manner.
Great.
Any questions?
Straightforward report this month. No questions?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brett. And that leads us into probation. I think Nancy's with us. Yeah, Nancy. Probation report.
Morning.
Good
morning.
morning.
We did not have any detention costs last month of the week. Like Brett said, we'll have Cala in our office, since we have the office space, doing assessments every Thursday. And we'll pay for it out of our peer recovery coach grant
Okay.
for the rest of the year. So that should pick up the slack till the DOC grant
Okay.
starts in. So I think that's all I have.
Okay. Well, we like zeros on that report.
Yes, we
so.
do, hopefully. Delaware County at conference told me they're starting to take girls again. They have like 3 or 4 beds for girls, but they don't want kids with behavior issues. And I'm like, okay, that makes no sense to me. Those are the only kids we send there. I mean, if they didn't have behavior issues, we wouldn't be putting them in detention. And of course, their costs have gone up to $200 per day. So, and we are getting a lot more kids with mental health issues, and good luck finding places that will take them with the combination of behavioral. Even behavioral health centers won't take very violent kids. So we're really struggling right now for placements.
Okay.
Doing the best we can.
All right. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us to new business. First on that agenda, the Monon Trail development through Kirkland. Mr. Pitzer, you're listed as the spokesperson for the group, so.
I guess Mindy.
Oh, is Mindy, you gonna do it? Okay, okay.
Second row.
I am Mindy Job, Kirkland Town Council President, and I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing us to come today to talk. As the on the council, I just wanted to share the support from the council and the community regarding the Monon Trail. The residents keep asking when they see us out, like, hey, are you guys still doing the Monon? I'm like, yeah, we're working on it, a grant didn't go through, but we're still working on ideas. On Saturday, I was coming back into town from Lebanon. I was on Elizaville Road, and I just met a group of cyclists. And that just reminds me of how awesome it would be if we had, the Monon Trail through Kirkland, because a lot of times I even see them on State Road 38 in Kirkland coming into town. So I really see the need of the Monon for our community. And earlier this year, we met with Eli Lilly, and they were asking us, what our needs were in the town. And the number one concern for our community was health. And I think that having a Monon would help, provide walking and biking trails, and would, help strengthen our community with our health. I think also the businesses, when I talk to them, I think they're kind of excited because our path that we're going to take through the downtown area, they're going to be walking by some of the businesses, so they're kind of excited to see that they might want to stop and take a break, stop at the coffee shop and get a coffee or get a drink or go to Booker's for a minute. So I think they're excited about seeing the Monon come through the downtown area and help them or touch them. And then in closing, I just want to just stress that, we're concerned with our commerce, our cleanup, and even our housing, and we're still trying to strive to make our town better. So,
Hey,
Doing a great job.
Mindy, you mentioned the grant that was unsuccessful. So was that a Next Level Trails grant? Or what was the grant that was
It was
unsuccessful?
next level training.
Yeah.
And we were real close. I mean, they were talking to us, and it came down to the one thing, which is the connection. And that's what Plan B was. If we can't get the grant, then we're gonna go to Plan B, and that's what we're here today to talk about what Plan B is. Very similar to what Sheridan did. Okay, Westfield, you're not gonna connect. They had the gap, 1 mile gap, and they just kept building it, and they are the ones that got the grant.
Okay.
Not just to do the connection, to take it all the way to Boone County. So we're not far now.
I didn't mean to jump ahead, and
No.
maybe, but
yeah,
Yeah.
so I was just
Wait, before he goes, I'm going second.
Oh, you're going
Yeah,
second?
I'm
All
going
right,
second.
well, okay.
Because they want me out of here, they don't want me to talk too loud. Sorry, guys, I'm a little puny today. I had surgery a couple weeks ago, and I'm hurting today, but I'll be all right. I had a hernia, it's not a big deal. But I'm a little wimp. I'm whining about it. Okay, so I think that I just want to just kind of update everybody on Kirkland, where we were 14 years ago. I think it's been about that long that Mary, Mindy, and like Dan and Walt and a couple other people sat down. We thought this would be a good idea to try to be a part of this community and work together to get it going. And there were 3 things that we highlighted. And number 1 was, look, we need to get commerce in this community, and that was number 1, hands down. I think there was 1 business basically in town at the time. That would give us the taxes, that would give us the water bills, that would give us start getting some, things, and it would also encourage other people to invest in the community. The second piece of that was we're going to have things for people to do, because ultimately at the beginning of the conversation really is the end of the conversation, which is we're going to have housing. We're going to need to be ready for that. And so those are the 3 things, those 3 pillars that we started in the plan. And if you look at our plan, it's exactly the same, the one that we wrote, the one that you guys helped us, finance. That is still the same plan 10 years ago. So where we're at right now is from the commerce, we leveraged that in. We've cleaned up the buildings without the sidewalk project and leveraging that. And again, the county helped us there. That's when we asked. We leveraged that into a grant, and the sidewalks got cleaned up, and it really helped us, inspire getting other businesses there. So since then, I think you guys know what's been going on. A lot of you guys do. But just kind of bring you up to speed. Dock Mountain moving to Kirkland, we have 95 employees in that company now. Not all of them are in Kirkland, but I'll bet you at least 50 or more are in Kirkland. And purchasing an empty building, fixing it up, and having a downtown conference center now for our business people to use, because that was something that was important to Kevin, is one of those things that happened. Everybody loves the distillery. There's some really cool things going on about that. But the distillery, there's 1,000 whiskey barrels in Kirkland right now aging, and 20 are being made every month. So it's pretty cool to see. But the neat thing about the tasting room, or neat thing about the distillery, is the tasting room has come to that area, and that tasting room is only open a couple nights a week. You go there on a Friday or Saturday night, it's not people from Kirkland, it's people from other places. And things to do, what is going on with the downtown, the businesses are changing, and they will, is the tasting room's actually going to be downtown. In June, I invite you all to come, but the building right next to Booker's, we will share the outside seating. It's got that tin ceiling, the original tin ceiling. It is really going to be a cool space. That's going to be where the ultimately the sup room is going to be. We can walk, drinks back and forth from Booker's into the outside. It's a really neat concept. The build out starts in December. 10,000 Treasures are great enough to move to another property. So lots of things still going on that piece to move forward. We have to have services. Dan and Dr. Chuck has gotten involved with the doctors group to help them be successful in a big way, not just a small way. They've been, working with them on a business level. We got to have those things. You can see that all of the community, like you go try to buy a house in Kirkland right now. I mean, I can't believe it. I wish I would have been a genius like 14 years ago and bought all the property on Madison, because those things are selling for like unbelievable prices, and you could have bought them for nothing back then. But I wasn't smart enough to do that, I guess. But there's also 4 new residents. I want to kind of make a joke real quick before I go into this final piece. My brother Dan bought an old farmhouse in Kirkland, and he's building a house. So Dan's going to live in Kirkland. I couldn't live in Kirkland because everybody'd be drinking coffee with me in the morning on my porch, but he can do that. Mel, the founder, the maker of Travelers Point, him and his wife bought property downtown, and they're building a new house downtown. You have Nate and Courtney bought 200 acres in Kirkland, farmland, built a house. There's a lot of things going on. The south side, 47, if you guys I'm sure know this, but that big, huge net development, 5 million, these are $2 million, $3 million homes going into Zionsville just south of 47. We're gonna continue to just get close to where that housing piece is important. So that brings us into the 2 projects that we've been on and we are on right now today. Cleaning up those gas stations on the south side, we are all over it. We're doing everything we can. Being in business, it's so slow, it drives me freaking crazy. But you have to go through the process, and we are. Working with Steven, we've got a plan 1, 2, and 3. We're on plan 1 right now, and hopefully we can get it done sooner than later. The Monon's the second piece, and Dwayne's going to kind of update you on what Plan B looks like. But the Monon, we have the 3 miles secured. Lots of people donated the land. We've already surveyed it, locked down the survey. So it's a 3-mile stretch, and it comes up to Madison. So it comes right up from Boone County line, right up to Madison. If you take that, which I'll let Dwayne kind of explain the map, it's real easy. It's not that hard to get to Sheridan. From that point is where we're going to build first, to basically prove that we mean business. And that 1 mile brings us right up to the distillery. We think we can leverage businesses and the volunteers that people have set up, and the community foundation donation, and the fundraiser that we're about to do. We think we can also go down to the park and start bringing it to the park. The part that's going to be the expensive part is going through downtown. We want it to be right. It's got to be it's got to be safe, it's got to look right, and that is going to be not cheap. And that's where the grant money is going to come. Everything that you give us, we'll go towards somebody help me out here, the matching funds, thank you. So that's where we're at today. We are not slowing this down, we are moving forward. We're going to start with the engineering. We already have a really good engineering company, and we're going to start building this thing in the spring. But we will not be able to do this without your guys' help. And this is the ask today. We're not asking for a crazy amount, we're asking for what we need. So that's the message I wanted to give you guys today. It's good to see everybody when you're up.
Chip, here's your glasses. Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dwayne Pitzer. I'm president of Kirkland Main Street. Wanted to just kind of give you a little bit of an overview. I apologize, I was on vacation last week, so this wasn't in your packet. I would also say it's obviously not been done by an engineering firm. This was done by me, just to try and give you an overview of what we're looking at here. But when Chip talks about Phase 1, I kind of have it highlighted here in yellow, or it may have colored a little bit of orange. We are looking at doing this section here, about a mile section, I suppose, from 900 East, just east of Kirkland, to the distillery. It'd be right up what was formerly the Monon Trail line, where we've had, as Chip mentioned, some families that have donated the land to us. So we can, we've got the land rights procured to get from State Road 38 essentially at 900 East up to the distillery. And again, why are we starting on that track? It's primarily to show that we are serious about doing this, and this essentially gets us almost to the Boone County line on the Clinton County side. Sheridan's already taken it to the Boone County side from Hamilton County, so then Boone County becomes the missing link, if you will, and hopefully that's going to maybe put some pressure, incentivize them a little bit to try and get their part going. I've been involved with a couple of the commissioner meetings there. Boone County Commissioners meeting, a couple other meetings. They're conceptually supportive of the project. They've got a few unique challenges in Boone County. I would suggest two of which are, one, they've got an awful lot going on over by the new development over there on the west side of the county that's kind of preoccupied them. That's one. The second issue they have is, I was talking to Jay Moore last night. Unlike Clinton County, where many decades ago, according to Jay, the county had the foresight to enforce setback rights from the county roads and from the state roads, Boone County didn't do that. And so whether you're talking about State Road 38 to Sheridan or the county roads, there is no easement rights, there's no setback rights. So that's why if you go into Boone County, the poles, the utility poles are right on the road if you ever travel that, because they don't have any easement rights. So the commissioners are going to have to get involved in some fashion to either try and work individually with individual landowners to do that, or do something else more creative. And they've actually talked about engaging a firm to help them do that. So, but it will be, basically we can get access, or we can get trails to Boone County on both sides now. So it's kind of the ball's in their court to do something. I do think they have a challenge of what they're going to do, but I think if we can give them to Clinton County, that we can make it happen the rest of the way. So that's why we're starting here. It's a kind of a strategic move to start here on this stretch. Then the other part here that I would show you is on what was pink or dark maroon, I guess, is the future trail. And on page 2, I kind of show you how that may go through Kirkland to the park and back to 421. I did circle the area in green there. We are still working with the engineering firms, exactly how that's going to get through town. Once you get down to Main Street, basically the stoplight is going to come down Madison Street from the distillery to Madison Street to the stoplight. As you weave your way through the rest of town out to the park, it becomes a little bit less clear. Our path, we've put a proposal forward. They came back and had a few suggestions for us to consider, which we're open to. But anyway, the plan is to get to the park and back to 421. And why 421, getting back there, becomes important is there's another group working on extending the rail line from Kokomo to Frankfort. To the extent that gets done, we can go right up 421 and connect into Michigan Town and give us connectivity there, and basically almost all the way to Frankfort once that line comes through. That is conceptually a little easier to do because I've had some preliminary conversations with NDOT, and they have setback rights there, so we could run right up the 421 and not have to procure much, if any, land. And that makes it a whole lot easier. So hopefully between one way or the other, we're going to show connectivity either to Michigan Town or to Sheridan, or ideally, eventually both is our long-term goal. I think both of those are viable paths, and I think over time both of them could work out, but it's going to take a lot of heavy lifting. So our ask today, as Chip said, is The Community Foundation has, my understanding from Chip, has indicated that we could apply for up to $150,000 grant there from the Community Foundation. Probably $100,000 is realistically more likely, but they would be receptive to up to $150,000. We have a fundraiser coming up where we think in Kirkland, conservatively, we will raise $25,000. We're hoping to exceed that. And so then our ask for the council here is $100,000, which together would put us between $225,000 and $250,000 to really make really good progress on getting this first phase of the trail done from State Road 38 to the distillery. That's what we're trying to get done. We think that would be a nice start. We think it would draw a lot of attention and get us, like I said, almost to the Boone-Clinton County line. I would say, if you look at this map on page 1, if you go to 900 East, which is kind of the far right-hand side where my yellow line ends, that's 900 East. That's still in Clinton County. It drops down there on 900 East, and then it merges. Then that becomes 700 East Boone County. That is a stone gravel road. There's no houses on it, no buildings on it, no anything on it. Only really used for farmland access. So originally, and this goes back probably 4 or 5 years ago, there was some discussion between both the Boone County Commissioners and Clinton County Commissioners that maybe we could somehow make that a limited access road, giving farmers the access to in and out, but to make that into a trail to get all the way to Boone County. Now, I would, in fairness, I would say since that time, many of the commissioners of Boone County have turned over as well as Clinton County, so I don't know if that's still as viable or not, but that was one of the ideas that we had to get to the Boone County line, was to make that road a kind of a limited access road. We don't want to do anything to prohibit the farmers from getting up and down that road as they need to for crops and tillage and that type of thing, but there is no other real purpose for that road at this point in time as far as vehicular traffic.
If we go that route, if we can get that back on the table, that can get you down where there is a section of 2 miles of the Monon. Now, the CSX is asking a ridiculous amount of money. It's very offensive to Boone County and
Yeah.
you saw the red lines that he got. But that section would take us all the way to almost 4 miles of the trail. wouldn't it?
Almost to Terhune.
Yeah,
Almost
so
to
you're
Terhune.
only down to a mile, and that's where you start turning into the Westfields and those sections that they would have to figure out. So it's a very doable situation to get to that point. And they know that too. We've had these discussions with county people and but like you said, the commissioners would have to be on board with that, and we'd have to get through that. So,
It's really interesting working with CSX on that. On their website, they say they're a big rails to trail supporter, but the office is out of Jacksonville, Florida. They couldn't find Terhune on a map, I don't think. And but for that 3/4 mile stretch of land that's abandoned, there's no ties on it, there's no anything. It's surrounded by cornfields on both sides. They want $350,000 for that section of land. So the other challenge with it is you really can't go the historic Monon Trail that the rail lines, that the trains traveled up and down, is really not an option because a lot of that land is now farmed through. And so the rules of abandonment in Indiana, I think, are 30 years. If it's been abandoned for 30 years, then it reverts to the farmers. So, it's really not practical to consider chopping up fields. They're not going to support that, and rightly so, I understand that. So we're looking at trying to weave our way through the county or state roads to connect Boone County to the rest of it.
And the other
So,
communities like Carmel and Westfield, if you guys have been on the trail, that's what they have to do. I mean, all of us have to do it at this stage, because the trail's been farmland. I mean, in some cases, the farmers will, donate the land. You're not counting. You have to work with landowners.
yeah, because a lot of because it chops up their field and makes it difficult to farm. So I don't know. I was just trying to give you an overview of kind of what the path might look like, what we're trying to accomplish. Certainly open to any questions. Any of us can answer any questions if you have any at this point in time.
What's your timeline? When would you like to do this phase 1?
We want to start in the spring building it, but it starts with the engineering, and also we're working with the local people that have businesses in town have offered up to. We want to leverage that money as much as possible, so we might be able to go to the park and do some of that work with the park board, that section of the trail, because Mensinger has said, hey, we we have no problem with you using our equipment. Now, they've said that before, we have to do some concessions for him, because the trail's right by his property. Henry said we could do that. We have a lot of people that know how to use equipment. I'm not one of them, but there's a lot of people that know how to use that equipment, that have volunteered, that work at the distillery or partners with the distillery. We can leverage all that out. It's gonna take until this midsummer before we can actually start pulling the trigger. I would not wanna do that. And Dan and that team is the one that deals with the construction side. Everybody's anticipating putting the gas on in the spring, so.
And it all qualifies for matching funds for grant purposes, so that we can really leverage that to try and get the rest of the trail done. And hopefully, we continue to make the case that by us being here, having our part of the trail done, it enhances the connectivity on other parts of the path. But I understand what the state is really wanting to see is connectivity now, not
Yeah.
down the road. So that's where we got a little bit of a challenge.
So my question is, I believe, if I recall correctly, last year or for this year's budget, the county committed, is it 60,000, correct me if I'm wrong, to the Monon project. So are you just asking for basically
Trying to match.
that 60 and then
40, yeah.
40
So no
more?
than that. We don't
I want to
really
make sure that I
do
understand that correctly.
If we start exceeding this number, then you're starting to take the incentive of getting a grant and leveraging that grant into, we need to leverage this into doing the downtown section correct. And even add a few things to the park. And that's gonna take a grant to do. Unless you guys are willing to write a $2 million check, and I don't think that's, I don't even care what you guys want, that's not even from, So I think we have to leverage this, and that's what.
Yeah, and that was a little bit, Chip, what I was unclear about, whether our funds would be commingled with the potential of Community Foundation, the fundraiser funds, and that was gonna start the work on phase one, or whether it was a commitment, a pledge that was gonna be held back and no money would be spent until such time that additional grants were applied for and you were showing our commitment as a match
We
and,
would be starting.
We would start, try and get that done to the distillery.
And,
Okay.
and honestly, when we were dealing with DNR on the phone and going through those meetings with them, they weren't like, they are committed, the state is committed to connect the whole to Manipulate, which is the one that's running up to Michigan Town. There's no doubt that they're planning on that happening. They want us to be, working on this now. They weren't like, we don't, you're done, they weren't like that at all. They're trying to push this forward. The only way that we can be driving it faster is we have to do the work, and they gave us that feeling, why don't you go ahead and get started with your engineering, why don't you start doing fundraisers? That was a very good message in that process. And we kind of already knew that.
For their rough budgeting purposes, they roughly estimate $1 million a mile to do the Monon Trail line. Now, that goes through Carmel and through the country, but, so I'm sure there's a difference there, but on average, they estimate $1 million a mile to do a Monon Trail line.
And that's why I think that 1 mile downtown is gonna be a lot more expensive than any other section that we do, on our piece at least.
is the town of Kirkland committing any money to the project?
They've already committed 30.
Okay.
They've already written checks.
Well, I wanted to make sure that that
Yes.
was
We
out there.
probably have about 60 to 70 into it already. We've done the surveying, through donations, private donations, and with the town donating 30 grand already, we probably have that right now into it. And the only reason why we put the proposal into DNR, it was all spelled out. So, real dollars, that's what's going on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, I asked about the timeline to know whether or not my preference would be for the council to take this under advisement and have time to discuss amongst ourselves, finish our budget review that we're in the process of, see where we stand. And I think it'd be fair to say we could have an answer for you at the October meeting. So,
I would just like to say that I'm appreciative of all the work that's being done in Kirkland, what's happening in the, we years ago, we did just those bike routes, and we were trying to make something out of nothing all the time, and you guys have made a lot out of something, so appreciate all the hard work.
Thank you.
all right. Anything else for us?
Thanks, guys, for everything.
Thank you for your time and the
you.
presentation and all your work. Okay. All right, next up on the agenda, we have a couple of HR items that I believe Cecily's here to, our HR coordinator, to walk us through. Some revolve around job description changes and other salary changes. So Cecily, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Have you all reviewed the job descriptions okay. So the committee's moving those forward for you guys to approve. They all had minor changes. Nothing was major. There's, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2 prosecutor, full-time and part-time, the commissioner's secretary, the EMA part-time mechanic, community health worker at the health department, the STD coordinator, public health medical assistant, and then the field officer at community corrections, and the part-time receptionist at the extension. So we would just like for you to,
Now, do those salary changes and the job descriptions go
none of them
together?
were salary.
Well,
They-
the first item on the agenda is the salary threshold changes, so I'm trying to determine
Oh,
whether.
sorry, I skipped.
Okay, so we're doing the job
Yeah,
description.
sorry, I
Okay.
did the job descriptions first.
So that is the recommendation of the committee to accept those changes. We've all been provided those copies and had a chance to review. Is there any question on any of those? They are all minor changes.
Yeah.
Okay. With that being said, I'd entertain a
I
motion,
would make a motion to approve all these as written.
the job description changes.
Job description changes,
Okay,
yes.
so I had a motion by Jeff, I had a second by Joe to approve those job description changes. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, and then the salary threshold changes.
Okay, so the FLSA has changed the salary threshold for any position that is exempt. We only have one in the county that it's going to affect.
Okay,
For 2024, we're talking $10. But to be compliant, we need to increase or amend the salary ordinance to be, it was 43,878, and we're talking about the nurse's position at Parkview.
okay.
So I need you guys to approve that so I can pay her the difference of that.
So are we really voting on an amendment to the salary ordinance?
You're gonna have to. That's, the only other option would be to change her classification, but that would not be my recommendation.
Yeah.
So what exactly does the motion need to be? I'm unclear.
That we need to amend the salary ordinance so that we're compliant
To meet
with
the
the
requirements.
salary
Yeah.
threshold.
It's not really for this person, it's going forward.
Yes.
yes.
Well, it will be so I have to figure for the rest of 2024.
'Cause it
we have
started
to
July
pay
1st, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I owe her like 10 cents per hour for the last month and a half, and then going forward. Then in 2025, it's going up to 58,656, but it was close with the midpoint. So that will be on the 2025 budget.
We're okay on the 25 budget, is what you mean?
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, I've already discussed it with Chris. He's already got the right
Tell me which
number in
position
there.
it was again?
The nurse at Parkview.
Okay, so we need to make an adjustment to the salary ordinance for the nurse position at Parkview to be FLSA compliant.
Yes.
Or should this be a change for that anybody in that situation, we would be compliant?
Well, I think we want to look at them individually.
Individually, but there is, I went through, and it only is affecting this one
Okay.
position
Okay.
for this year and next year.
Okay.
So we'll be compliant once we make this change.
Anybody care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I've got Carol making that motion. Do I have a second? Second. I think I had Mary with her hand up first with the second. Is everybody clear on what we're voting on? There's a kind of nuance there, but
Appropriation, basically.
a very small, but a change to the.
And
to
it
the
will be a
ordinance.
compliance issue going
It's a
forward.
compliance issue.
Exactly.
So, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0 on that change. Thank you for being on top of that, Cecily. All right, next up, Commissioner Brewer. We've got a couple of items to deal with that Jordan's going to share with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I think on the agenda has the fairground project first, but
Correct.
if it's okay, we'll start with the fuel tanks. For those that aren't aware, we bid our fuel out again this year. Well, for the first time since I've been a commissioner, we've actually had the opportunity to bid it out in the past. Just based on our infrastructure, we had no other interest than our one provider, which was Keystone. We had two other companies that showed interest, so we ended up bidding that contract for 25 out. It came back that Heritage Oil was $65,000 less than any other bidder. So they were awarded the contract, but what that does is it requires us to invest in some infrastructure going forward. So currently how it works is we have some tanks at Highway, but everyone else utilizes Keystone's facility there kind of behind Esserman's to fill up with their fuel. So what I'm here today to talk about is purchasing tanks so that we will now have our own tanks that we own, which will allow us flexibility going forward to be able to open up those bids to anyone that can provide us fuel, because we won't be locked into any one supplier's infrastructure. Clinton County will now own the infrastructure going forward. So to get 5 2,500-gallon tanks and 2 smart systems, which basically are the systems to keep the tracking, logging in, and all of that, it's roughly $75,000. So Alan and I have talked about that. So let me back up. So we're saving 65 in our bids, we're spending 75, and the plan going forward is this will provide more competitive bids to a lot of different suppliers because we own the infrastructure. So the savings is kind of a long-term return on investment. Alan and I have talked that this would be a good source, and I think there's an additional in there to come out of the CUMCAP development. When he and I met 4 years ago and talked about budgets, we talked about trying to keep that budget neutral in terms of its spending and the revenue it brought in. As of 6/30, we had a balance of $445,000 in there. So we've done that pretty well over the last 3 years. And just for reference, in 25 projected, it should bring in a revenue of about $280,000. And we have in our budget right now for 25, $193,000. So we're keeping it budget neutral to building up that account balance for opportunities like this that come up and we need to make a purchase. That's kind of the quick run through. I'll be glad to answer any questions that I didn't touch on.
Yeah, I'll just add that, and we have had the talk that, you know, this is exactly what CUMCAP development is for, is these types of things. And sometimes in the past, we've been forced to pull other items out of there for lack of another funding source, but we've been very disciplined here in the last 2 or 3 budget cycles to try to be true to its purpose and let that account balance build back up so that we can take advantage of opportunities like this. So I really do think this will provide a substantial return on investment over time, because we saw what the difference could be in 1 year, and that could happen year after year. So certainly I'm comfortable moving forward with this as a plan.
Are you still looking at putting the tanks out at EMA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll station them there as kind of the central hub. Highway will continue to have their tanks on site, and all the other departments will be able to utilize EMA to fill up. And we're going a little larger with the volume so that we can basically cover a month's worth of usage. That way, if there was a sticky situation that happened in the winter, the tanks would be full. We should be able to buy some time before a truck would need to get there and fill them up.
And we do have this advertised in the additional appropriations, so we don't need to take action at this particular point in time. We'll catch that during the additionals.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Any other questions?
Any questions on that topic? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Second one is called Fairground Project. So you may be unaware of this, but there was some safety concerns around the roof of the cattle building at the fairgrounds. We were able to get those temporarily solutioned for the fair this year so it could continue. But going forward, we need to invest in something to either fix the roof or put up some new structures. So the Fair Council had approached us about a plan, which I believe they're still working on and going to hold a meeting with the public on September 18th to kind of have a little bit more discourse. But I'm here just kind of general. We have, for those that don't know, our ARPA funds they have to be obligated by the end of '24 or we lose those funds. And so I guess the ask today is to obligate what we have remaining of our ARPA funds towards fairground projects. We haven't invested much, if anything, in the fairgrounds for quite a few years. So this is more of a general request to allow us some flexibility, depending on what the feedback comes and what the plan is, to invest in the infrastructure there a little bit with these remaining ARPA funds. But generally speaking, that we know the cattle barn is a project that's going to have to be taken on before next year's fair and fixed.
So to elaborate on that, we were allocated $6.293 million of ARPA funds. We've obligated $6 million of that, $5 million to the annex project, $1 million to the roundabout project. So that leaves us with $293,000 of unobligated funds, which is the ask. And we may, I'm not sure I want to count this chicken as hatched yet, but we may have a little bit left over from that $1 million on the roundabout project. We estimate it could be 40,000-ish that we could roll over to the fairgrounds as well. But I want to make sure and double and triple check that the last invoices are in before saying that's an absolute. But so we could have anywhere between the 293 and I think it was 347 if I remember. 347 I think was the total number if we added that potential roundabout money. So at this point, we don't have a particular project, but I think the point Jordan makes about, we've talked for a number of budget cycles about doing some things at the fairgrounds, and that's just for various reasons not happened yet. And I think it's time to actually put some money in the budget for that, and then let the Fair Council work with the commissioners to come up with the best bang for the buck. So I'd entertain a motion if the council
So moved.
approves that we obligate the remaining ARPA dollars to fairground improvement projects. I think technically at the moment, we're doing the $293,000 until we can come back and verify for certain that other money is available. But then commissioners, you'll have to take the ball and run with it because we have to amend an ordinance. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, this is the first step.
Yeah.
So we'll have to amend the ordinance to encompass this project because it wasn't one of the original ones that
Right.
we enumerated in the ordinance. So that's why I'm
Yep,
here as well.
yep,
So we
yep.
could get that ball rolling with this first step.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll
so-
make that motion.
So we had the motion by Todd, and I think, Mike, you had the second, that we appropriate the remaining unobligated funds from our ARPA distribution to fairground improvement projects. Any discussion or question? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. We hand it off to you.
All right, thank you, council.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, next up is the county farm that we lease out. Just a little history. There are two pieces. There are two farms in the county. There's a 25-acre farm that's over by ConAgra, and then there's 136 acres that is really referred to as the county farm behind Parkview Home, and that's what the county council is going to vote on this morning. The reason it's coming to the county is there's Indiana code that says if the county leases out land and if that cost is $25,000 or more, if that's what the county brings in, $25,000 annually or more, it must go before the commissioners and the council. And September 3rd, it went before the commissioners and it was approved on a 3-0 vote. And the farm that is farming, the business that is farming that is the Charles Dunn Farm that is farming the 136 acres. So it's already been approved by the commissioners, so I would ask the council to do the same, to make a motion, if so desired.
I'll make that motion to accept the two. We have two, right, both properties?
No, we're voting
working on the
on the
Charles Dunn.
136 acres. It brings in $44,200, and that's why it's really coming to the council, because we take care of the budget, and this is a win-win-win for the two farmers that have been granted a 3-year extension on their lease, and we're bringing in $44,200 a year.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
Carol, and then Todd. Would everybody raise their right hand for approval? A 6-0 with Alan abstaining.
All right.
That was-
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, that moves us on to the old business portion of the agenda, which is the additional appropriations. If you let me get organized here. Okay, starting with the general fund, we had a medical reimbursement, DOC reimbursement of $1,821.17. That is the only item for the general fund. Community corrections. Community corrections, we're appropriating $3,000 as support that the corrections program is going to offer to the Crossing School and their continued partnership. So $3,000 that will go to the Crossing. Here's our fuel tanks. The commissioners from the Cume Cap Development Fund, $100,000, which is beyond what we think we'll need, but it gives us a little cushion in the event of any unexpected site prep work, anything like that. $100,000 from Cume Cap. Obviously, we'll only spend what we need. Probation, we have a number of Trex collections, so if you flip through your packet, you'll see there's a number, and I won't go into all of the individual collections, but they total $3,660.62 that were collected through Trex Indiana Income Tax Withholding. So that program continues to pay dividends to the county. I'm still flipping through the pages there. Drain maintenance from the surveyor's office, we received a check from Tippecanoe County for $15.75 from the Arborist Young drain for their portion. $5,000 from our Veterans Monument Fund that Joe submits to purchase a new batch of flags for the fund, or for the memorial. From the surveyor, again, user fee funds. This time we're getting a reimbursement that we're reappropriating for professional services. Again, as I've explained times before, oftentimes the surveyor, to evaluate a permit claim, has to engage county paid for professional services. That invoice is then submitted to the applicant who reimburses the county. So this is putting that money back into that professional services line item, $438.71. More Trex collections, this time for community corrections, $186.36. From the federal inmate fund, inmate medical expenses, $5,000 additional miscellaneous disbursement from that fund. We also had listed and advertised a reduction. If you'll notice, it goes back to the Public Defender Board. For those that weren't in the room earlier, we had a discussion about this earlier in our early morning budget hearing with the courts. In talking with Judge Moeller prior to the meeting, we're going to table this, or I would like to have a motion to table this, because we think upon further discussion that maybe this needs to be handled as a transfer, not as an additional appropriation or a reduction. And so we're going to work through that with the auditor's office and the courts and make sure we do this right. So I would entertain a motion first to table this reduction from the Public Defender Board of $136,000 and let us make sure we've got everything like we really want it.
Make that motion.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mary to table. Do I have a second? Second by Mike. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. So that leaves the remaining ordinance to be all of those appropriations with the reduction removed. Does anyone have any questions about any of those appropriations? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve that ordinance then, which is 2024-12.
So moved.
I have a motion by Carol to approve the ordinance. I have Mary with the second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, we have a couple of transfers that require council approval as well. Beginning in the auditor's office, $3,000 from the property deputy position to extra help. And then on EMS, $21,550 from overtime to repair vehicles, to repair one of our ambulances. Statewide 911, $18,000 from shift supervisors to overtime. We've had a vacancy there that we needed to cover with overtime. Landfill tipping fees. Jordan, I may have you talk about, this is the Paul Philippi vehicle. Can you maybe say a couple of words about that whole situation? Because I haven't really kept them up to speed on that whole. Oh, yeah, Dawn's here. I'm sorry. I looked right past you. So we have $13,356 that we're going to move from the demolition of properties to a vehicle for Paul Philippi. And this has to go with a grant match and a grant situation. That Dawn, do you mind speaking, or Jordan, either one of you? Okay. Can you go to, so that people watching online can hear you?
So Paul Philippi had approached the commissioners back in February about replacement vehicles. I don't remember specifically how old they are, but they're getting some years on them. And so they needed the local match, similar to any of the funds that come through there, for the state match. And so this is the request for the amount that was needed from the county to participate in the local match so that they could get the state match to get the new vehicles and continue the service for our community.
So doing it this way allowed for that to be done without shortchanging the social services line item
Correct.
that you had already.
Well, two things to that. One, we had already had so many dollars budgeted, and we already had more requests than budgeted at the time. And then this was kind of a one-off specific situation for Paul Philippi rather than kind of the general social services. So.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I just wanted to provide that context. Dawn, do you care to add anything?
I mean, we just had 2 new vehicles that came in, so like you said, 80% was paid for, like through the grant program through the NDOT, and then the 20% we have to come up with the local match. So we appreciate everything that the city and county has done for us to make that happen.
And the city is participating as well. I want that to be clear and stated. So that's the last of the transfers that require approval. So we handled that in-house through a pre-budgeted item. We haven't had any demolition of property needs or to the scale of what we fully budgeted, and so we moved those dollars around to put them to better use, or put them to use from landfill. So that is the slate of transfers that require approval. I'd entertain a motion to approve those.
Motion approved.
I have a motion by Jeff to approve the transfers. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Mike. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, we have in our packet the monthly budget updates that the auditor provides us, the budget status and the financial report, budget balance report, or the cash balance report. I'd entertain a motion to mark those as received.
So moved.
Yes. I think I had Jeff first, so I'm going to give Mike the second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, so that leaves us with reports. Any council reports that anybody needs to share? Carol?
I'll just update you on the CMHC. I had a conversation with George Hurd yesterday, and they finally received their approval from Shelby County and Hancock County. So the Jim Pauley group is going to be doing all 3 of those counties. And those 2 counties were a little bit slower in getting their approvals in than us, but everything's still on the move for a first quarter transition.
Okay, great.
So.
Great. Thank you for the update. Anybody else? Joe?
Myself and Mike went to the School Safeties Commission representing the council, and everything with our schools, county schools,
We're good?
thumbs up.
We're good? Okay. That's good news. Good news.
Recently, Jordan and I met with Skip Davis and Hillary from the Fair Board. Skip wants to, he's looking into making the admin building, the little building up front there. He wants to put that on the National Registry, so he's.
Of historic places?
Historic places, so he's doing his homework for that, but I thought I would just let the county council know.
Neat.
Good.
No discussion of a financial contribution of any kind
No,
yet?
no,
Yet?
no, not at all.
Yet?
I think,
Okay.
yeah, that's right.
Okay,
I think Commissioner Brewer has said some things, so
okay. Well, I appreciate that heads up and that.
Kinda
I
down the road.
appreciate you going. That
Down
was-
the road.
That was one that I was asked to go to, and I was out of town, and Jeff kindly stepped in for me that day,
It
and
was
I thank,
120 degrees.
and I thank you for doing so. All right, we have a couple of commissioners in the room. Do we have any commissioner report? Anything beyond what maybe we've already hit on?
Covered everything.
Okay, okay, very good. Department heads, any department heads? I see we've got several in the room. Anybody need time at the council outside of regular budget discussions that we'll have throughout the day? Sheriff?
Probably the first thing we addressed it at the commissioner meeting, good morning, Sheriff Kelly here, was we need to have an amendment to the ordinance for the work release
Yeah, right.
to be able to, whatever, move forward with that. So, I mean, I think that falls on council
Yes.
to make that happen, so.
I'm glad you brought that up. I would have
Something,
forgotten.
yeah, I almost did. So that's something that we need to do is to keep a project moving there at the sheriff's office. So that would probably be one of the most important things we can get moving is to have that. There's no fund that was ever established.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that resulted from our State Board of Accounts audit. We just,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't technically in compliance, and so we needed to amend our ordinance and,
we ran, that's been
It's
in
been that way
operation for 20 years, I would
Yeah.
guess say easily.
Yeah.
So, to finally get that looked at, I mean, it's kind of a surprise to me, but we do need that ordinance amendment or whatever the case would be.
we will get that done.
So that's probably first and foremost. The second thing, we're looking at, again, asking council for approval to use funds from commissary to do the awards banquet for the sheriff's office and sometime in the spring of '25. And I think we're requesting $7,500 to make that happen for our employees.
Just a second, let me finish
Yes.
my notes here. Okay, I had to do my work release notes before I would have forgot if I didn't
Yeah,
write
no
that
worries.
down.
We
So, okay.
do need to get that addressed. So the awards banquet, we have it every year for the use of the funds from commissary to make that happen for the employees. We're asking for
Is
$7,500.
there any reason we're asking so early? That we usually do that in like January?
No, we typically do it around October, November, because we gotta get a venue and get the food vendor and all the.
Right.
for our date.
Is that more than we've done in the past? It seems more.
It's $500 increase because we do DIY certificates and I'm out of the stuff to do those, so I need to reorder all of our certificate stuff.
Okay. Any thoughts, comments, questions from the council? We've done it historically.
Yeah, we have. I think a few of us have just been a little uncomfortable with alcohol being served, but I don't know what.
We don't provide that. That is not
Is that
paid for.
provided by the county?
It is, absolutely not. We've
Very
had this
good.
discussion last year. We'll have it again, but it is not provided to anyone. If they're adults, they can partake
They
whatever they
purchase
want to
it
do.
themselves.
But it is not through the sheriff's
It's
office.
never been
Never.
purchased through the
Very good, thank you.
Okay. You're making a motion?
I'll make
Joe-
a motion.
Joe's making a motion to approve. Mary with the second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Carol abstaining. That does remind me, Sheriff, that, and Mary reminded me, I appreciated her reminder to me, we, during the summer, after the fair, had kind of an emergency need to appropriate some money for some supplies. I don't know how we just
The giveaways.
Yes.
yeah, and we kind of approved that and said we would catch up and ratify it in a public meeting, and we forgot to do that last month, and so
We never purchased any extra.
the
We never
4,000,
did
the
anything
4,000,
beyond
the initial.
we never did the additional, no.
No,
Okay.
never did the
No,
additional.
We didn't participate.
Because
Okay.
we wouldn't have got the supplies in for the.
Okay, all right, well, that
project.
clarifies that, so, all right, I wanted to make sure that we kind of did whatever we needed to do if there was an actual expenditure there, so, okay, thank you
Okay,
for
no
clarifying that.
One other thing, the records clerk that is retiring. Both are retiring at our part-time position and our full-time position. I think the matron has some questions in regards to the, I'm not even going to say, I'm going to leave it to her.
Okay.
So I don't get you confused.
Okay, we have one going out for a medical need, and her resignation date's going to be October 4th, but she will be leaving for a surgery in probably 2 weeks, like September 20th. So her resignation's on the table. That's a full-time records clerk, and then our part-time is retiring, finally. So her done date, she's going to stay with us to fill in during the surgery need for our full-time, and then she will be leaving at the same date on October 4th. So my request is, I've got 15 applicants for both positions currently. I would like to get a little training in before we lose both of them. We're going to have some additional money in the part-time court security line, so that would be my request, that I bring them in and get as much training from the knowledge we're losing. It's going to overlap. Obviously, we don't have a pay line for that, but we have additional money in the part-time court security that we're still trying to fill.
Yeah, and that's been something we've done in multiple departments. So it's been kind of a standard thing whenever we can make use of that knowledge that we have on site.
We don't do it a lot, but this is one of those positions we would require some overlap there.
I'm not sure that you need, if you have the money in another budget line item, other than if it requires us to approve a transfer, I don't think you need any additional approval for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That is it.
Very good.
Chair.
What
I mean,
we at on
Councilman.
the federal inmates? I know you had said about a month or two ago, maybe longer, that you were going to ask for an increase. Did that ever go through?
What we did was, we have to redo an agreement, and the agreement has been fulfilled. Everything has to be, put together and approved, and basically it's a signature. And the increase in the funds is a typical increase. So it's, from having good standing with the federal government as far as holding the inmates. So basically what we're waiting on is to get the document signed and move forward with the continuation of the program. We're still working under the previous agreement, and this will be the agreement that will end when I leave office. So we're just kind of waiting on it. It is, one of those things where we have the ability to move forward with it, and that's where we're at. So I think signing it and moving forward, and I received an email from, President Dunn in regards to the loss that is there. And currently, we still have we still generate the same funds that we did. So we still have a projection of income. We still have the ability to, retain and hold those inmates and to move forward into 25 with a new agreement, and which is the best thing that we could do for the community. It is something that, we look forward to doing, and it's when the time's right and everything, all the paperwork's right, and we see what the income is going to be, then we'll sign the agreement and move forward. But it's been months of work that have been put into that agreement by the matron, and working with the federal government to get that done with the Bureau of Prisons, the U.S. Marshals, and to make sure that that is secured for 2025 and into 26. So it is an agreement that we appreciate with the federal government, and right now, without the agreement signed currently, we don't do one thing, and that is transport once they're convicted to where they get transported to their permanent facilities. And it's a pretty minimal loss. I mean, it's once a month, twice a month at most that we do this. So it's not, it's not a windfall. Let's put it that way. It is one of those things that we do for them and have done for them, but it does tax us and manpower, things like that. So that's part of the agreement that we're discussing now, is whether we would continue to do that portion of it for the U.S. Marshals and the Bureau of Prisons. So not a real big issue. We'll get it signed, and we'll get moving forward into the next year.
Sheriff, is there a timeline on that?
I think it falls before the end of the year is the required time, so we can.
We're
so they
waiting
can
on
have
them?
What's that?
We're waiting on the feds or somebody on this?
Well, we're kind of we're still in that process of discussing with them what we're going to move forward with in 25, if we're going to still do the travel for them and move the inmates down to where they leave an airport. So,
But you're
simple.
you're anticipating a contract that would be in place for 25 and 26, a new
Yes.
contract with the new rate?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Okay. Anything else for the sheriff? No. Good question, Mike. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other department heads? Anybody else need anything? Non-department heads need time before the council.
Question before I walk out, and maybe for the commissioners, out-of-state travel, out-of-area travel with fuel cards. And I know we can discuss it when it comes time in your meetings. That's the only thing that I foresee that we've got to figure something out, because we do a lot of travel across the state. I don't know if a tank of gas will get us there and back.
Credit cards will still be active,
Okay,
so they'll be used.
perfect. Thank you very much.
All right. You don't have anything? Okay. All right. Well, we will adjourn this meeting, and we will return back to the budget hearing
Steve,
in,
you have a question?
let's say, 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes or so, to everybody get a chance to stretch. We'll adjourn the regular council meeting.
Oh, stretch.